Good day everyone! Let me first introduce myself. I am Norberto E. Calpis, and for this video I am going to discuss about the life of Pythagoras as well as his great contribution towards mathematics. Without further ado, let us fasten our seatbelt as we go through our discussion. Pythagoras, or known as Pythagoras of Samos, was an Ionian philosopher, a Greek mathematician, and a founder of metaphysical religion known as the Pythagoreanism. Pythagoras was born in Samos, Greece around 570. Later in his life, Pythagoras moved to the Mesopotamian Italy. He passed away around 495 BC. According to the legend, he did have a wife and children, though records about them are typically sketchy. Thus, he left no mathematical writings himself, and much of what we know about Pythagorean comes from the writings of Philolaus and other Pythagorean scholars. Indeed, it is by no means clear whether many or indeed any of the theorem ascribed to him were in fact solved by Pythagoras personally or by his followers. The details we have of Pythagoras' life from early biographies, which use important original sources yet are written by authors who attribute divine powers to him and whose aim was to present him as a godlike figure. What we present information is an attempt to collect together the most reliable sources to keep track of his life. His father was Nisarius, a merchant who came from the Tyre, while his mother was Pythais, and he was a native of Samos. As a child, Pythagoras spent his early years in Samos but traveled widely with his father. Like many great researchers and philosophers, he probably traveled to extensively increase his knowledge. Considering the vast array of knowledge, he amazed his life as evidenced by his teachings. Pythagoras believed that he left Samos during the reign of Pythagoras. Throughout the course of his life, Pythagoras was able to study from Greeks, Egyptians, and various people in Asia. His formal education was in areas related to arithmetic, geometry, morals, astronomy, and religion. The two philosophers who were to influence Pythagoras and to introduce him the mathematical ideas were Thales and his pupil Anaximander, who both lived in Melchus. It is said that Pythagoras visited Thales in Melchus when he was between 18 and 20 years old. By this time, Thales was an old man, and although he created strong impression on Pythagoras, he probably did not teach him a great deal. However, he did contribute Pythagoras' interest in mathematics and astronomy and advised him to travel to Egypt to learn more of these subjects. Thales' pupil Anaximander lectured in Melchus, and Pythagoras attended these lectures. Anaximander certainly was interested in geometry and cosmology, and many of his ideas would influence the Pythagoras' point of views. In 535 BC, Pythagoras went to Egypt. This happened a few years after the tyrant of Pythagoras seized control of the city of Samos. There is some evidence proof that Pythagoras and Pythagoras were friends at first, as it claimed that Pythagoras went to Egypt with a letter of introduction written by Pythagoras. In 525 BC, Cambyses II, the king of Persia, invaded Egypt. Pythagoras abandoned his alliance with Egypt and sent 40 ships to join the Persian fleet against the Egyptians. Pythagoras was taken prisoner and taken to Babylon. In about 520 BC, Pythagoras left Babylon and returned to Samos. Pythagoras then left Samos and went to southern Italy in around 530 to 518 BC, where he preached so much of his knowledge towards his followers. As Pythagoras and his family moved to Croton, southern Italy, where he established the school nucleus of rather bizarre Pythagorean Sect. He taught his students how to save a human soul through mathematical principles. His followers were known as Pythagorean scholars. The members were divided into the mathematikoi, or the learners. They lived permanently with the society and had no personal possession and were vegetarians. They were taught by Pythagoras himself and obey strict rules, and they are focused to extend and develop more mathematical scientific work of Pythagoras. And the other group was acosmatics, or the listeners. They lived in their own houses, only coming to the society during the day. They were allowed their own possessions and they were not required to be vegetarians, and they focused on religious and ritualistic aspect of his teachings. So much for his life history. Let us proceed to his contribution in mathematics. Antiquity, Pythagoras of Samos is often described as the first pure mathematician. He is an extremely important figure in development of mathematics. He was being credited with so much contribution in mathematics, including the most well-known theorems, discoveries, and beliefs that we are to discuss right after. Herewith, the contribution of Pythagoras in mathematics. Number 1. 5 regular solids. Proclus credited Pythagoras with the discovery of 5 regular solids, namely the cube, which has 6 sides, the tetrahedron, that has 4 sides, octahedron, that has 8 sides, dodecahedron, that has 12 sides, as well as icosahedron, that has 20 sides. It is thought that Pythagoras himself knew how to construct the first 3 regular solids, after which he was able to construct the other 2. Yet, properties of these solids were further elaborated by Plato, hence these are named after him and were extensively discussed in the books published around 16th and 17th centuries. Number 2. Properties of triangle. Adding further to his achievements, Pythagoras and his follower gave an idea about the angles of the triangle. They stated that the sum of all angles of a triangle is equal to 2 right angles. They also proposed a generalization that states that the sum of interior angles of a polygon with n side is equal to right angles, and the sum of its exterior angles is equal to 4 right angles. Number 3. Pythagorean Theorem. He is mainly credited for the theorem that is named after him, which is Pythagoras or Pythagorean Theorem. This was known to the Babylonians 1,000 years earlier, but he may have been the first to prove it. Pythagoras gave a perfect geometric explanation of this theorem. However, it is not known whether this theorem was given by him or by his followers. This theorem states that in a right-angled triangle, the square of the length of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the square of the length of other 2 sides that contains right angle. Number 4. Numerology. As mentioned by Aristotle, Pythagoreans use science in the areas of mystery and spiritualism without functional application. The principle of Pythagoras' school was all is number, or God is number. They believe that each number has its own meaning and characteristics. They used to worship numbers and very strongly practiced numerology. For example, number 1 was called a generator as it can generate all other numbers. Number 2. Dyad represent matter. Number 3. Represent harmony. Number 4. Signifies 4 seasons and 4 elements. Number 5. Represent marriage because it is the sum of 2 and 3. Number 6. Represent creation. Number 7 was sacred as it was the number of 7 planets. Odd numbers were considered as female and even numbers as male. According to my further research, Pythagorean numerology system is one of the most popular system nowadays. Lots of numerologists says that Pythagorean system is the most precise, but still a lot of people prefer to work with Pythagorean as it is easy and understandable. It is simple and in practice and studying. Number 5. Irrational numbers. Irrational are those real numbers that cannot be represented in the form of ratio. In other words, those real numbers that are not rational numbers are known as irrational numbers. Hippasus, a Pythagorean philosopher, discovered irrational numbers in 5th century BC. According to the website Wolfram Math World, despite Hippasus' faith, square root of 2 is one of the best known irrational numbers and is sometimes called Pythagoras constant. Number 6. Perfect numbers. Pythagoreans were the first to identify the perfect numbers. Perfect numbers are those numbers that are equal to the sum of their proper divisor. It is believed that Pythagoreans studied the mystical properties of these numbers. An actual explanation about perfect numbers was later given by Euclid. Number 7. Theocritus. He believed that 10 is the most complete number because it is made up of the first digits, which is 1, 2, 3, and 4, and because it forms a triangle when in that notation. The Pythagorean oath also mentioned the tetractys known as the decad, an equilateral triangle formed from the sequence of first 10 numbers aligned in 4 lines or 4 rows. It is a great tribute to the Pythagoreans' intellectual achievements that they deduced the special place of number 10 from an abstract mathematical agreement rather than from something as mundane as counting the fingers on 2 hands. Tetractys represent the 4 classical elements, which are fire, air, water, and earth. Number 8. The last number. Amicable numbers. Pythagoreans are credited for the discovery of the first pair of amicable numbers. Amicable numbers are 2 different natural numbers related in such a way that the sum of the proper divisor of each equal to the other number and vice versa. For example, 220 and 284. Attributing virtues such as friendship and justice to numbers was characteristic of Pythagoreans at all times. That's all for this discussion. I hope you've learned something from the life of Pythagoras as well as his great contribution towards mathematics. Again, this is Norberto Icalpis. Thank you and good day.